How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Gangi. Welcome to another episode of Tier Talk. Guys, great discussion coming our way today. We're going to be talking about retention strategies for rookie correctional officers. So this is the pass-off. This is what comes after the academy in most facilities or in most states or most agencies. So basically, what can we do at the facility level to ensure that we do our best to retain the people that are coming in? I think it's going to be a great dialogue today. My guest is going to be Russ Hamilton. But real quick, before we introduce Russ, don't forget I got a couple of books on the market. We have Inmate Manipulation Decoded. This book is available on the market on Amazon. Link to this book is in the description, guys. This book is used all across the country. I also have a few books published by Blue 360 Media. We got How to Succeed in Corrections, a nice thick book full of just wonderful tips and advice, not just for myself, but from other people who work in the profession. And I also got Tips for New Correctional Officers and Their Supervisors. Again, it's published by Blue 360 Media. Same format, passages with support tips from those in the profession. And I also have 3 more books coming out from Blue 360 Media. One on leadership. So again, a similar format, passage-driven. I got a very small book coming out on dealing with unruly inmates. I just went through the final editing process now. I love that book. It's going to come out very soon. I'm excited for that one. There's a lot of information in that book. It's not a big book. It's about 46 pages, but it's got a lot of information, a lot of stuff that you're going to have to revisit. And again, it's about dealing with unruly inmates. And then I have one other book coming out about report writing. That's a bigger book. That's about 80 pages. That's still in the editing process. And I also released 2 more books for digital. They will be out shortly in paperback, but you can get them right now on digital. One book is about employee morale. Together We Rise. And it basically showcases how we're all responsible for good morale in the workplace. And it goes into a couple of things like stress and just being fulfilled, having fulfillment in the work you do. And I enjoyed working on that book. And then I have a great partnership book with Inmate Manipulation Decoded called Breaking Boundaries, Understanding and Preventing Undue Familiarity in Corrections. This book is doing very well. Again, they're only available on digital right now. Link to the digital is in the description, but I am working on the paperback covers, and these 2 are self-published. I'm doing that on the side, keep things a little bit cheaper, and I think it actually allows for a quicker, I write and then just put it out there as soon as I can. All right, let me get Russ. What's up, Russ?
Hey there, sir. How's it going?
Good. Hey, Russ, you mind introducing yourself to our audience, please?
Of course. My name is Russ Hamilton. I am a former and retired sergeant from California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. I've also been a junior or a senior juvenile correctional officer. I currently work for a company that we do reentry and rehabilitation work for a local probation department and a local county jail where I am a case manager. And if I look somewhat distracted here, my dog is giving me fits. He wants treats that I was feeding him, and he's not giving up.
Well, we'll wait.
No, we're good.
Hey, Russ, how's Keepers going? Keepers of Chaos, KAOS.
So Keepers of Chaos on Facebook was I founded it, and it was and has been a great enterprise for really bringing corrections professionals together in a way that they are really focused on the actual profession itself. We focus really on carrying first of all of the Tier Talk. All of the Tier Talk media, but then also just as a discussion group for, everything corrections, things about training, things about history, things about, just general knowledge in general, as well as supporting each other through mentorship.
Yes, and guys, if you get a chance, please check it out. If you're already on Facebook, get into that group. If you're not on Facebook, this may be a good reason to join Facebook. The supportive group there is it's truly helpful, truly beneficial. Plus, we're on the sites as well, so you get to connect to us directly. Okay, so I want people to know something real quick. Recruitment and retention, and I have this in my books, or I've done it in articles too. they may be two parts, but they're two parts of the same process. I don't like looking at these as separated, because then the part receiving it, the retention side, the facility side, when they don't get the rookie that they expect, and maybe they expect some level of perfection, I don't know, they tend to blame the recruitment side. And it's not how it works, guys. This is a partnership where there's a pass off. When recruitment, gets their people, they do a filter, but they're not going to be able to give you someone who's perfect. They're going to give you someone who has potential, hopefully, someone that you can cultivate. And then there's the pass off. So a couple of things that you should be expecting, and this is actually in my book on Together We Rise. What you should expect from the recruitment is identifying good, suitable candidates, a good screening, a comprehensive screening. They have to be introduced to realistic expectations. And this is the key. Recruitment starts the positive momentum. So anything you want to say on that, Russ, on that recruitment side, what we should expect from recruitment?
Yeah, I think it's really sad that in this day and age, we've traded the recruitment phase for just filling slots. And I think that that's a major failure on the parts of departments around the country, in that they pushed their people so hard, and when they ran out of bodies, they just started stocking them like fish in a pond, and any fish would do. I think we really do need to get back to the idea that we need to, find suitable people that we can bring on board into the job, and then be able to, give them the training and resources to become successful, and not just a place filler. And I see so many, officers across the country, they're put into these different, departments. And they become, just even in their own mind, sometimes just glorified babysitters, and that's not what they are. This profession really takes a lot of nuance and understanding and experience to make you really good at this. And so, I would hope that we would start looking for the types of candidates that tend to flourish in this type of environment, and that tend to succeed and go on to either promote or get into the administrative side or the management side or whatever it is, and not just simply go, hey, we just need a warm body, so let's fill it.
Right. And guys, that actually is on all levels. People got to realize that right now, even though we're in desperation mode, we should never lower what we accept coming in. I've actually heard communication in the background about trying to look for those that could have been formerly incarcerated, depending on what they've done. I mean, we can't go to that extreme. There's still integrity and core values that we have, that we expect people to have coming in. And again, I'm not saying that I don't believe people can change. Of course, I believe that people can change. But this is a profession that I'm not willing to test that out in, if that's fair. And I'm not being disrespectful in any way, sense, or form. But this isn't a testing ground for that type of hope or whatever it is. I feel that for this profession right here, when it comes to those correctional officers, you enter because you have lived a level of high expectations. And at that point, that's what makes you, I think, a perfect candidate for this position. But again, that's a topic for another discussion. Someone messaged me that, and either way, again, it's not meant to be insulting. It's just meant to give a perspective. I believe for this profession, the standards to be a correctional officer need to be extremely, extremely high. No different than you would find in any other law enforcement profession. Okay, so now this is the handoff. Okay, so this is what matters. This means that if recruitment did their part, they did what we just mentioned, and you got a candidate that has potential. Now comes the pass off. Now comes someone that, hey, he's not at 100%. She's not 100%. She may only be at 1 or 2%, but she's headed, or he's headed, in the right direction. So now this is what we expect from the facilities during the pass-off. And I think it's fair to say this, Russ, before we go into the little bullets here, is because if the facility has expectations on what they expect maybe from the recruitment side, if you get recruitment individuals that are very invested in what they're bringing into the profession and they're connected to the people that they're training, I think it's fair to say that they also have expectations of what they expect when they pass off the rookies. Wouldn't you agree with that too? That's fair.
Yeah, there's a lot of nuance, I think, in what we want to see in these people. I think it's fair to say that we want people that are able to be balanced, and they already have a form of balance in their life. Someone that can be hard at the drop of a hat and soft at the drop of a hat at the same time. I think that, too often we're settling because we've gotten into that mindset, like I mentioned before, about, just filling slots, let's just fill the shift. And that's not what we need, because that will come back and bite you in the ass. We need well-rounded people that can function at all different levels and that can wear many different hats, and that, can really truly inhabit the full mantle of that authority that we're given.
Yeah. Okay. So the first thing, and I agree with that, Russ, 100%, of course. The first thing is the effective onboarding process. Now, it's funny because, I definitely was introduced to the word onboarding in some of the business books I've read. I mean, we would equate it more to an orientation process or whatnot, but basically the onboarding process here is when they enter the facility. So I'm sure we have an onboarding process when they're going through recruitment and stuff like that. But remember, now we're lifting them up and we're putting them over here. So I do think the facility at some level should have a strong onboarding process to continue the momentum that the academy started. And that onboarding process should somehow connect a little bit to recruitment. But I also believe that recruitment also needs to start stepping away and trusting that the people that are receiving the individuals are now able to go ahead and, take over what was started. Now, granted, everything we're going to cover down from here, the bullets actually really do relate to the onboarding process. So I may not go into too much specifics right now on what we expect from an onboarding process, because like Russ mentioned before about things bleeding into each other, this is probably the foundation. This is everything else we're going to build off of, but this is the foundation right now. So, Russ, I guess this is more of just a quick yes or no, just in general, before we go to the specifics of what we expect from an onboarding process. Do we need effective onboarding processes, and how does that connect to the recruitment side in general? How do we move that over, and how do we stay connected?
I think there's a lot to be said here, but I'll keep it quick because we're probably going to touch on most everything in here, but everything from the point where we get the person from the academy to the point that we start putting them on to different shifts, to the point that we start putting them into different positions in order to start well-rounding them and giving them a feel for everything that goes on at that facility, to mentorship, to additional training, to welcoming them in a way that makes them feel plugged in, so that they buy into the process, so that they feel invested in a good, safe, and secure institution. All of that is part of that, and even to the point where we start talking about things like having an apprenticeship program in order to make sure that they truly get all of the training and all of the experience they need to become a journeyman correctional officer.
Hey, Russ, when we go into this, I think that if I 100% agreement, obviously, but when it comes to effective onboarding, I'm going to go as far as saying this, even on the recruitment side, but now we're talking about the facility. I said both sides do have onboarding, but we're talking about the facility onboarding process. I'm actually good with saying that when the rookie comes in, we have a responsibility to that rookie. Would you go so far as saying that? I agree with that, I think.
Oh, completely. I mean, we're talking about putting someone in charge of life and death situations. And sometimes the life and death might be theirs. Sometimes the life and death might be ours. And so, it's responsibility, at a level that, most of the public never experiences and never sees. So, yeah, we have to make sure that, that we spend the capital, both in money, time, and everything else to bring them along in a way that puts them in the position to be that impact person with regards to safety and security and all of those other things, that we have with regards to, running an efficient organization.
And now the first one we have, again, this kind of fall into running an effective onboarding system or whatever, system, is mentorship and buddy system. Now, granted, guys, I want to put something out there. Me and Russ don't take the word mentor lightly. Even when Russ says it, when it comes to Keepers of Chaos, he knows that mentorship. This is why Keepers of Chaos is such an important group. We're not coaches. The people in Keepers of Chaos are willing to have developed relationships with individuals that allow for the mentoring to continue. This is not just coaching someone through a moment of their career, but rather mentoring the person as an individual, understanding what they want from the profession. I mean, I remember, helping out people's in Keepers of Chaos, and Russ the same way, where people start mentioning what their specific concern is, very specific, and they're looking for some level of application. But I know me, Russ, and many others on Keeper of Chaos, before we even answer that question, we try to find out who the individual is, because we know that, advice that works for me may not work for someone else. So we want to know more about the individual, and that starts to develop a relationship in which we start to understand who they are, what their goals are, and then the advice that comes is not more short term for that specific need, but rather long term. It's filtered through something at a higher level that actually tends to be of great value. So when we talk about mentorship, I don't like agencies that just put, we have a mentorship program without understanding what a mentor really is. It's an accepted and developed relationship in which both the mentor and the mentee have value. That means there's value in what Russ is going to teach me from his experience. And in return, Russ finds value by sharing his experience and making sure that if he's going to invest time in someone, that time, that legacy is worth it. And that's why I also put buddy system. Buddy system may be more of a coaching thing, where if you're going through something in the moment, you got good support coming in, telling you, giving you some level of direction, with also some level of empowerment and decision-making. But I think for the buddy system, it's more about in the moment, where mentorship is more about longer term and really knowing the individual. But again, I do believe both need to be needed, but I don't want agencies to mix the two. Mentorship is not something that I feel could be delegated to someone. I think it's if me and Russ are working together, Russ could be mentoring me for years before I really realize that he's a mentor. It's just a relationship that develops in which the label is earned and not given, if that makes sense, where the buddy system could be more of a given label. It's what's expected at that point. But it's not, it's just like, hey, you work here, go help out your people. But a mentorship is a lot more involved. Russ, I'd love to get your thoughts on this, because this is something we've discussed, and I've even put this in some of my writing.
Mentorships can take a few different, avenues or approaches or models or whatever we want to call it. We can do everything, from something that's formal, although I like to think of it in a form as being less formalized, and something where, you can have perhaps, multiple mentors, because different people obviously, could be, different subject matter experts in different categories. You may need to be mentored and brought along with firearms, or you might need to learn some combat handcuffing, or you might need to know some drug identification or about gangs. And so I think of it as, an eclectic pursuit with, many different cooks, if you will. I think the buddy system, it can take different forms too, but I think of it more as someone that's there to back you up in any given situation, so that we don't put these people alone out there and say, hey, just function. Because that's stupid on our part. You know, if we're going to talk about safety and security, I don't care how much experience someone has. They should be rarely operating by themselves inside a correctional setting, and yet we see it all the time. You know, especially in pods and stuff inside of county jails. Too often, you know, we don't have enough manpower there to be backing people up. So I think, you know, it just kind of depends on what your interpretation is, but I think there's a lot of different blends possible in this sort of thing.
And you know, it's crazy, Russ, and we've discussed this before. I think like a buddy system, like you're saying, like a coaching system is more of the people that are next to you that are giving you the what and the how, so you can understand the tactics of the job. I think the mentorship are those that really take the time to give you the why behind things, because the why can be so personal and opens up a connection between you and that person, because the why truly is the experience. It's you know, it's more than the how. It's why I do what I do. And I think when you start getting to that personal side, it opens up I mean, imagine this, Russ, if you start giving me the why and it shares your personal experience, and I actually appreciate, like I should, you know, as a rookie, look at this. I'm learning something that may have taken you 20 something years to learn, but think about it from your perspective. Wow, someone's respecting my lessons. Someone's respecting my life experience. Because Russ, I mean, let's be honest here, guys. And one last thing, the mentorship really knows that balance too. And we'll get to it now with work and home. And a lot of the stuff that I've learned in this profession, I have found other application for. And I think for someone, when they go to teach you the why and they go to mentor you in, you'll find that a lot of the lessons that they're teaching you are not just professional lessons, they're life lessons. Would you agree with that, Russ?
Oh, well, yeah, absolutely. You know, I was just sitting here thinking, and you know, there are a lot of people in this profession that are, you know, good and serviceable type officers that still, you know, never get down to the nitty gritty, to the nuance, to the multiple layers of onions within the onion of corrections, as I often refer to it. They never see the deeper picture, and there's so much there to uncover. There's so much there to pass on that I think too often there's a disservice done in a way where we just tell people, or we assume, or we pass on, or we don't talk to them at all. And it becomes assumed that that corrections is simple. And it's not. It really is a thing that takes years and years and years. At least it took me years and years and years to refine and get to the point where you go from being serviceable to good to exceptional to fantastic. And I think that that's something that everyone should try and do. But so many people get lost along the way because they're just told that, you know, that they are just, you know, they're just filling that shift.
Yep, and there's an intentional effort on both sides of that to learn and also to provide. All right, so the next one I got here is progressive goal setting. So let me mention it. Let me break this down a little bit, because I know this, I feel, would be one of Russ's strengths, and I'll explain why. Russ made a good point when we were reviewing this video. We basically thought that progressive goal setting kind of runs into career development opportunities, and that's not what I mean by this. Progressive goal setting is making sure that we provide significance to the task that is being done in an effort for people to try their best to perfect each task. There's always going to be an effort to strive for perfection. Whether we reach it or not is one thing, but we have to strive for it. So progressive goal setting is a way to break down the tasks that allow people to know that they're headed in the right direction within that task, but also allowing them to know the higher level application of that task. You know, how does what you do right now not just work with your peers, not just work with the departments around you, but how does that relate to what the agency expects and where the agency is going? Progressive goal setting, to me, is where good, strong mentorship can come in, because goal setting technically can go two ways. One, the goals of the agency, but how do I relate the goals of the agency to what this person, this rookie, wants to connect to? I think really good mentors, the ones that are sitting alongside you, teaching you the profession, find out what it is that that you connect to, and then make sure that they orient the goals to that connection. And one other thing before I ask Russ on this is, when it comes to progressive goal setting, this to me is where the mentor plays the biggest role. Me and Russ have discussed on this channel many times before, and I think I have it in Together We Rise, very quick book, but about sink or swim. It doesn't work. Sink or swim basically just leaves the person in survival mode, overwhelms them at work, and actually tends to be more divisive as they don't feel supported and whatnot. We've discussed that, a whole show on that. With that said, the opposite of that is someone alongside you that doesn't just give you a task, but works with you and gives you a level of understanding about that task. So even though it could be a routine task, they provide you with a level of value towards the task, so you can kind of connect it, so you can kind of see the purpose behind it. So even though it may be a routine task, the person next to you is kind of cultivating you into why this task may be important. And the reason why I think this matters, Russ, is at the facility, I worked at 5 prisons. I've been managing prisons now for probably almost a decade now, since 2015. So pushing almost a decade, right? When I first came in to managing the very first facility I did, it was a very overwhelming facility. A lot of stuff was coming your way. I wasn't introduced to, you just don't know about the position until you enter the position. I mean, I just want to tell people that. You think you have an idea, but you don't until you're in it. And no one before had introduced me to the complexities of prison management. I just said, hey, I want to give it a shot because I thought I knew what the job was about. And it's a very difficult job. I know some people may think they know a little more and they haven't stepped in it, but having said that, it is. And one of the things I looked forward to was I had people next to me that would kind of break down the being overwhelmed into like little goals that I could set for myself. And then what I didn't realize, especially from this person who introduced me into prison management, a wonderful woman, she just it's just amazing. She didn't have custody background, she had a classification background, but her knowledge about the running of a facility, whether it was just earned through experience, but I think in this case, it was her own intentionality of learning the job, was amazing. And the way she could deal with people, I'm a big fan of her. She took her time really cultivating me. The progressive goals that mattered is that she kind of put me in this trajectory. And the funny thing is that you may be overwhelmed, but you're learning. And then one day someone's going to kind of give you the keys. And all of a sudden, all this work that you did, even though you may have been overwhelmed, you start to say, holy crap, if I didn't do this, I wouldn't be able to do this. So the progressive goals, I think, help set you up for the next stage of that career. Even if it's not a promotion, maybe it's just you taking the reins and running things. So progressive goal setting, I definitely think is an investment of time. It's an investment of time, but very rewarding, especially for our new people, because it helps people see the importance or the significance behind the individual, rather routine tasks. What's your thoughts, Russ? There's a lot there, I know.
Yeah, I think, especially when we're talking about, things that happen, down there at the line level in the trenches, we have to be cognizant that, some of those goals are, they can be, a little bit nebulous in that we don't understand, or some people may not understand that sometimes it's just gaining the experience and incrementally getting better at doing tasks. If you're looking to, become more familiar, let's say with transportation, and you have to learn, more about, putting on the restraints. You have to learn more about, how to escort people. You have to learn, how to handle them. If you start to have a problem, you have to, learn about, what to look for if you're going to, some outside place like a hospital. And the things that you need to know about, gang involvement and things like that. And so it's hard sometimes to say, okay, I have met this goal. because it is so incremental along the way. But we just really, have to focus on the fact that, you have to take these individuals and put them in a position where they're not one-trick ponies, but that they, have a true understanding about, things like, gangs, or running an inmate work crew, or doing the transportation thing, like I said, or all of the other things that go along with that, running a housing unit, running a seg unit, which is markedly different from, being involved in general population type scenarios. And so putting those people in all the positions necessary to get them enough experience that we can say they are meeting their goals. And I think that that's one thing, that the things like apprenticeship programs can really lend themselves to, because that does become, a more solid, more tangible goal when you know that you're moving toward the markers of, X number of hours, X number of hours of doing specific jobs, specific functions, and getting new specific skill sets added to your repertoire. So I hope I didn't go all over the place there too much, but that was kind of my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think when it comes to the progressive goals, the settings, they can't be superficial. I mean, it can't be, when you find 5 things. No, it's got to have some value. And I think the value does come from the people that are next to you that can translate the connection between what the goals are and what you would like to see in this profession. And then also a little bit of buy-in in that translation. So like if I'm your trainer or your mentor, whatever it is, and I could see that this is the path that the agency wants you on progressively, I'm going to try to talk to you, see what it is that you're trying to get from it, and then work my magic and connect both. I think that's the key. Try to build some connection instead of just being so superficial with it. Well, you haven't reached this part and you haven't reached this. It's like, no, connect, build that connection, use the goals as an effort to connect. And I think that person will wind up realizing that the goals have significance as opposed to just goals for the agency or goals for me to, reach for superficial reasons. These are goals that I could reach that could make me better in long term for what it is I'm trying to accomplish here. Russ, I'll have you go first here. The career development opportunities. What's your thoughts on exposing rookies to this, but also making them known that this is not something that you're going to get right away, but this is something that you can see as being offered eventually?
Yeah, you got to pay your dues. Some people come in and think that, by their 3rd week that they're going to have, weekends and holidays off. And corrections is just not set up like that. There's a lot of things where seniority is involved. And I think that's the way it should be, because, there has to be, some type of guideline and measurement. Otherwise, we just end up with a bunch of nepotism, and friendship and cars, as we used to call them back in the day, clicks. So there is that. But we want people to know that corrections can lead you to a lot of different opportunities. And, it can be anything as simple and straightforward, as promoting, which is simple. But there's also oftentimes a lot of, different, side opportunities. There's investigations, or you might get involved in something like, doing the honor guard thing, or there's, CERT, and so many different things that can keep your attention and give you a really long and meaningful career. Some people are content to, to just go out there and do the officer thing and make drug busts all day long and things like that. And we need people like that. Others, are more, driven towards the upward mobility scale. I had a friend of mine, he came in as an officer and left as a warden. And so, and we need all those types of talents. We need people that are driven in different ways and that can function in different ways. The average officer who's really good at, running the housing unit and finding contraband, plays a significant role. We have other guys that are maybe less attuned to that, but they want to be, on the special teams and come in when we have a really serious incident and help mop that up or save lives in the process or whatever. So all of those things should be presented to people so they can start thinking about what it is that they want to do. Maybe some people already have some special abilities. Maybe maybe there's people out there that are already, in tune with what it takes to train a canine unit and would be great in that type of capacity. So I think that it's such a big field that we should be showcasing that and showing it off so that we don't turn corrections, as it so often is, into just a stepping stone onto some other type of law enforcement.
Yeah, and guys, another thing, and I love what Russ said about the stepping stone, because this profession does offer a lot. And if you go in automatically looking at whatever the next step is, you kind of ignore what's being taught to you in the moment, the things that could actually give you a better appreciation for what's being done in the moment. And then also, how does what being done could relate to something that you may want to cross into. I know a lot of people that come in so focused on wanting to take that next step that they actually really are not invested in the step that they're in now. And now the problem is they don't allow for the true appreciation of what it is that we do, because they're not really learning. They're so focused on going to that next step that they're really not taking value in the moment. And I also like to tell people when you come in, and if you know this is going to be a career for you, and maybe at the very beginning you saw things that you relate to, keep it out there, keep it in the distance. I'm not telling you to get rid of it, but don't be so focused on that there could be other opportunities coming along the way that you're totally going to reject because you're so focused on wanting to do this, because then the problem is you don't have control of that. So if that option is not given to you, all of a sudden, everything you're doing is wasted time. And that's not what you want this profession to be. You want to basically go in seeing everything that the profession has to offer and being open to multiple possibilities. So you don't put yourself into a spot where you're dead end. Okay, so let's go to the next one. I'll start with this one, creating a supportive working environment. Part of the book I wrote is about morale. That's the one that's available on ebook. And that is literally about how we all play into a supportive working environment. It's not just management, even though management's got a big part on that. It's also us, how we treat each other. I think there's a level of a peer-to-peer accountability that, to me, matters the most. I know that management has final accountability, but the immediate accountability is always going to be peer-to-peer. So when it comes to creating a supportive working environment, I do put a lot of it on management, don't get me wrong, but that doesn't minimize the extreme importance of what we have to do as peers. Because remember, guys, we are their immediate contact. I mean, when a rookie comes in, they may not see management maybe once, I don't know, but definitely not as frequent as they're going to see you who's working next to them. So when it comes to creating that supportive working environment, I think for the rookie, it is going to start in how they're welcomed coming in. And yes, management plays a role, but that welcome isn't just on day one. It's literally, hopefully throughout their career, but it's a welcoming that lasts, and it's also a matter of these people are coming in trying to alleviate the concerns. One of them being understaffed and overly worked. And when these rookies come in, how are we not welcoming them? How are we not providing an environment that's supportive when they're coming in to solve a problem? They're coming in to help us. So how do we keep them motivated so they keep coming in and they keep helping us? I know this may sound crazy. And yes, we as senior professionals, there are some levels of expectations that we do expect because we've been in the profession a bit longer. So we do expect some level of loyalty and respect. And when the new boots come in, they should be able to offer that. But it's not automatic. They may come in and give it to you at the beginning, hopefully. But it's up to you to have to maintain that, to keep that momentum. So if you think the rookies are going to come in and you could push them away, just expecting that they're going to want to be the savior and work the overtimes and all this other stuff, and there's just no level of support, or I'm just going to push these rookies away, they're not going to be motivated to help. They're not going to be motivated to stay. because there's no connection to the human element. These rookies that are coming in want that connection to the human element. So I think that what we need to do is when they come in, welcome them, let them see that, when they stay, they're staying, let's say in this case here, because I have to go home. My child's birthday is today. So I'm not staying because of the post. I'm not staying. I'm not wanting to stay because of the covering of the post or whatever it is. I'm being mandatory. I guess it switches from need to want. Let's do it this way. If I'm a rookie, we're going to get mandatory. How do I switch that feeling of the need to a want? When we start connecting on the human element, this is where peer-to-peer accountability comes in. The need switches to the want. And what I mean by that is I need to stay here. I get it because the post is short. So I do have to, and I need to stay. That's management's perspective. I need to stay. But because I'm so close with Russ, and I know Russ had a family event today or whatever it is, I don't just need to stay. I want to stay. So you need to stay for the agency, but you want to stay for your people. And that's where the peer-to-peer accountability comes in. I've never discussed it in that way before, but I think that's true. If you're forced to stay and that equates to a need, so that's management down, that's hard for us to push the need. That's why there is accountability for us, but the accountability is the final accountability. That's when the want doesn't work. But if we're good with each other and we have good peer-to-peer support, it never makes it to the need where management has to push. It stays at the want level where we're helping each other out because we know that if I stay today, Russ will stay tomorrow. So I think that translates well in creating an environment where when there is burden, there's stress, especially for people coming in who are going to get mandatory and may not be used to a schedule as demanding as ours. How do we switch it where they don't feel they're being forced, but rather they feel that we're doing it together as a team? And that's where the want comes in. Does that make sense, Russ? Because I just thought of that.
Yeah, it does. But I think, but we have to, try and do what we can also, though, to be sensitive to the fact that, it's not optimal. If you're constantly mandating people now if it's occasional or once a week, big deal. But people just get chewed up and spit out. And the best thing that I can tell people is don't be miserable when you're there and you're held over. Find some type of value in what you're doing and enjoy the people that you're around and try and take something valuable away from it. It's never going to be optimal, but there's some people that the only way that they're truly happy is if they're stewing in their own misery. And so don't be that. But corrections really does have to find a way to get away from that, because it's one thing to talk about it within the context of a week or two or a month, but it's another thing when you start talking about how it impacts you over a career.
Well, yeah. Remember, Russ, too. It also the retention side's a big part of that. The retention side is what gets the people to stay. I mean, you could bring the numbers in all day, but if they're not welcomed at the facility and they're pushed away, they will leave. And I like what you're saying. The only thing I would say is the facilities that, because we're all going through struggles right now, the facilities that survive this aspect are the facilities that actually have this great peer-to-peer accountability. And you can actually see it in the fact that the need is the mandate. The want is not the mandate. So that's what I'm trying to mention is that if you have management pushing down because there's no peer-to-peer accountability, because I think peer-to-peer accountability does come first in this matter. We're all through struggling times. We all have to get through it. So how do we do this together? And then management should be supporting what those initiatives are. But before we get to the need, before we get management pushing the need, and then basically, unfortunately, if you don't follow that need, you get disciplined. And then people start doing the family leave and all this other stuff. You got good facilities that they don't even have that family leave because they know that there's a way where they could work things out amongst each other. Because we know we're going through troubling times. And at this point, I know we're going to get through it, but right now we're going through it today. So having said that, I think the peer-to-peer accountability alleviates the need for management to mandate, because we all know management's got to cover these posts. They know that. And management doesn't want to. We have to. We have no choice. So when you have people that know, hey, this has to be covered, then the frontline people start to work it amongst themselves. And in some cases here, I've seen it where they're not mandating anybody at all because people know when to volunteer. I'll volunteer today because he had my back yesterday because I wasn't in. And it's just, you're right, it's demanding, but I think the perspective of knowing that it's a want versus a need until we can get ourselves to a point where we have a better schedule. So I think the want is the initial level where we have the peer-to-peer accountability and we want to help each other. But then you get some people that may not want to be involved in that and they're a little selfish in nature. And at this point here, I know I was out yesterday and technically I really got nothing going on today, but I just don't want to stay. Well, now it comes to a point where management has to come in. And when management pushes the need, when management pushes the mandate, technically the funny thing is that their efforts to discipline that person for, not being a part of that team or playing that role is an effort to help the peer-to-peer accountability. Hey, you broke away from the team on this one. We have good peer-to-peer accountability here. So I'm going to go ahead and support the team because we are going through rough times. We try to do it this way, but now that you brought it up to management, now we have to play a different role. But as I said, for good facilities, you never see it at the management level. You don't, it doesn't translate to a need. For some reason, people have each other's back and they handle it as they see fit. And then even if there's minor concerns, like something may happen, they could work with operations. And because the person's worked 2 or 3 times, hey, don't even worry about it. We'll get you next time. Go do what you got to do. And people allow for the, I guess, the case by case as opposed to the catch-all, the Pandora's box. Like, oh, well, if I help this person out, then everybody's going to expect the same leniency. No, we're a peer-to-peer facility. We got good accountability. That person truly does have a concern. Don't worry about how we take care of that person, and eventually they come back and they take care of us. It's a karma-driven facility. Definitely something that is to look at why we go through these struggles. Kind of shifts the blame to accountability. Okay, so let's see. Russ, as a supervisor, how important is regular and timely feedback and performance reviews in helping one create the what we need the rookie to be? So that's part of the cultivating process, but also to keep them encouraged.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into that. I think especially in the feedback part of the loop, because you should be telling these people what's expected, what they're doing well, what they're not doing well, and how they can improve, so that it's not a big surprise when they get their performance review and you put on there, hey, you know what, you're shit at finding contraband. And they go, well, you never brought that up before. And then, that just, gets into the negative part of the feedback loop, where then they, can become disgruntled. And then that doesn't help any with retention. Feedback has to be one of those things that's, ongoing. It has to be immediate, or nearly immediate in my view, because, I want to provide more positive feedback than negative feedback. And so when I see an officer who's done something good or exceptional, I want to be right there to not only give them praise, but to question them about why they did it, where they learned it, and put them into a position where they feel good in about passing that on and teaching other people what they did and why they did it and how they did it. Because you can never have enough talent, and talent has to be something that's not just cultivated but also cloned. And so, if you've got a good group working within those perspectives, you can actually take all of that good stuff that's happening and multiply it over and over and over again. You get part about the performance review. There should never be any surprises in a performance review. This should be stuff that they have heard all the way along, the good and the bad, and then we should always be talking in the performance reviews not only about the good and the bad, but where we go from here. What I want to see that person do, and also input as to what that person wants to go on and do, so that I can give them bullet points. Oh, you want to promote? That's great. Or, hey, you want to get on the CERT team? Hey, well, I'm no expert in that, but I'll tell you that you're going to really have to, pick up with regards to your physical training, whatever it is. But help bring them a blueprint in those performance reviews that get them to where they want to be. Because guess what that does? That keeps people in retention because then they feel like they're meeting their goals and they feel like they're going somewhere in their career and they're not just wasting away time and flirting with other agencies.
Yeah, there's not much more I can add on that, Russ. I mean, outside of, I think we mentioned it timely, you don't want to do it delayed. You want to do it when it matters, when it's relevant. I think that's kind of where the coaching aspect comes in because there could be something in the moment that, maybe you're sitting alongside the person, you're watching them do it, and then you may want to go ahead and maybe give them some immediate feedback at what could have been done better, or even compliment, keep them encouraged, keep them motivated. Rookies that when they come in, a failure at a rookie's level is a lot different than a failure at a senior staff's level. Senior has more wins under their belt, we hope. So they're able to go inward for confidence, where a rookie, when they're coming in, they're going outwards because they don't have inward confidence yet at some level. So with that said, the feedback and how it's delivered matters because you got to be constructive with it. But sometimes it even starts with complimenting what you see first and then building that connection to the individual first. And then if there are concerns, then you cross into the negative. But I always would try to introduce the positive first, and then maybe even get an understanding of why that person made that choice. So you're not just going in saying, hey, by the way, A, B, C, D, E. It's like, hey, Russ, can I talk to you for a minute? Hey, I saw you went through this issue today. Hey, let me ask you a question just real quick. Why'd you go that route? What were your thoughts on this? And kind of do the what if with them. Sometimes it's great. Russ taught me this too. Sometimes just in the feedback, you're not really giving them statements. You could be asking them questions in which they can bring it out of themselves. They went through a situation, and Russ has a great thing, and maybe Russ can comment on this a little more about how you could just kind of keep on asking what if, until the person starts to realize, yeah, maybe I could have done this way, right? So you're not really, you're providing them a chance to think for themselves, to build their own confidence, but you're also guiding them through the what if, right?
Yeah, if you spark people's engagement, whether it's with what if or other types of motivational interviewing techniques, sometimes they don't even realize the import of what they're ready to learn on their own through that process. And when you're able to spark that, and they're able to see, oh, that's why I did that. And they're able to then, start that dialogue within themselves. And the dialogue for me is always, the what if, but, moving it from not just the what if to the why, to the how, and along that, that whole arc, then you're able to really figure things out and understand why things happen at a deeper level inside corrections. And that goes for not just the inmate population, but, what's going on with administrators and your peers and everybody else. So you should be, constantly trying to spark that within them. I had a young officer one time, and I told him, I said, hey, look, down here on this section of yard, I'm never going to be able to get close enough because they'll be watching me, but you're going to be able to go in there. And I know that there's going to be a cell phone there, And so I said, after I walk by, you just swoop in there because they're going to be, looking straight at me. And sure enough, man, he went right in there and got those two cell phones. And, months, weeks, years later, it's him, doing that with another officer and telling that officer, hey, they're going to be looking at me too hard, but you're going to be able to go in there. And so passing things like that on in ways that matter so that we don't lose that experience and that knowledge is really key. And once again, keeping the people, fed, so to speak, where they're getting that constant positive reinforcement and they're being successful, once again, lends itself to retention.
Yeah. And guys, when Russ talked about performance reviews, that's more of the documentation side. So again, that performance reviews are good to progressively know if the person's headed in the right direction or sadly in the negative direction, but they should also be addressed in a timely manner to where it could be corrected or given the chance, especially if it's going towards the negative side. You can't just, I love what Russ said, and I don't want it overlooked. You can't just tell somebody after 6 months of them messing up that they're messing up. You know, why didn't you tell them the first day they messed up? Why didn't you give them a chance to correct themselves instead of letting them further go down the rabbit hole? But again, outside of noting their performance, you also should be noting your efforts for corrective measure so they can see that if the person is going into a negative direction, that we've been constructive, we tried, but at this point, all efforts have been exhausted. And now through competency, this person is just not, could create a bigger liability, or if they're just negligent, it could go either way. So this is important. We're addressing stress and mental health, guys. I think now we know that there is vulnerability, and we do try to encourage people that when they don't feel right, or they don't feel okay, that they really have to see if there's a way to address it. You know, basically first with themselves, and then trusting whatever outlets we have, whether it's an employee assistance program, whatever it is, to go ahead and take the route so they can put themselves into a better mindset. Stress is can be very demanding. As a rookie, you're coming into this environment. It's new. It's overwhelming. So the stress that you're going to face can come from almost anywhere. It can come from the duty of the job to interactions with inmates. I mean, you haven't been introduced to the profession. You haven't developed routine. So with that said, it's going to be very stressful for you on so many ways, so many ways coming in, where as you start to mature in this profession, it may not be as stressful because it's a lot of the stuff you've been introduced to. But as a rookie, everything's going to be stressful because, again, it's very overwhelming. With that said, I think a lot of agency has also started to realize that stress makes us vulnerable to a lot of different things, including manipulation. One of the books I have about stress, this is written by Gary Cornelius. We did a show on this yesterday called Stress Out. This is an amazing book. If you really sit down and read this book was written for correctional professionals. It's so specific to corrections at any level, and parole and probation are in here as well. But it talks about the demands of the job. But as I said, as a rookie, the demands are going to be a lot greater. You know, maybe as you move up, maybe it's a more specific. Maybe these inmates are starting to get to me today. But don't forget, if you're a rookie and you don't have an understanding of what your full job encompasses, you got stuff outside of just the running of the unit. You got, meeting new people, dealing with inmates for the first time. A lot of the stuff is introduction that can require that can get stress or anxiety. And having said that, stress again makes you extremely vulnerable. So not making the efforts to identify it and handle it in that moment and just letting it grow is only going to make matters worse, because you're going to carry it with you instead of solving it in the moment. And Russ, obviously, stress is something that we have to help people get through. Remember, we discussed on a show where a rookie gets splashed, let's say for the first time, and the senior officer says something like, well, I guess in this profession, expect the unexpected, with no context, no effort to help the person through what they just been through. And they'll be like, well, when I went through it, this is what they did to me. But we always seem to forget how it made us feel. So why are we keeping that pattern of negativity and separation when we could be the first person to be a little bit different and go to that rookie and say, hey, I heard you got splashed. Everything good? You need anything? How does that help? And Russ, stress. I mean, is this something that we should be focusing more on today?
Yeah, I think if I was going to say, just one thing here, like one deep insight that maybe I've been given is, I would like to, have whether it's the rookies or established senior staff, it doesn't matter, but put people in a position where they are comfortable, asking for help. It's because it's so hard. You go for so long inside the profession, and then, you get yourself to a position, even outside, years afterwards, and you're so accustomed to not asking for help, to, eschewing help, and deciding that you're just going to, take the brunt of the world on your shoulders and keep going and going and going. And then you finally get to a point where you don't even know it yet, that you don't have anything left inside you, and you really need to finally break down and ask for help, chances are you're not going to do it. Chances are you're gonna have a bad outcome of one kind or another. So we really want to foster those people, especially when they're new and they're malleable. And instead of like we tangentially talked on it before, just a little bit about the sink or swim mentality. What do we want to engender in these people? Do we want them to go, oh yeah, sink or swim? Yeah, that's the way I was brought up. That's the only way to go. Or do we want to put them on a path where, hey, no, we can do mentorship. We can do, peer support. We can teach people, hey, you know what? If you get to a point where you're having issues, you should reach out and talk to us, or you should, activate the EAP system or whatever it is, that's within your department. And no longer put these people in a position where they think that it's either weak or the help isn't really there, because otherwise you'll come back and you'll learn it the hard way, and then it's bad when you can't actually ever ask for help. It should be a non-starter, but you're brought up certain ways, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah. Now for these other ones. The work-life balance initiative, this is more for what the agency can do to balance the demands of the job, which could be the demands of the home life. So remember, you want people to stay in this profession, and you don't want them feeling at any moment that their choice to stay in this profession winds up sacrificing support that they can provide their family. You don't want people in this profession to feel that they have to make that either or choice, because at the end of the day, rightfully so, they should. They got to choose their family. So with that said, how do we minimize putting staff into a position where that choice has to be made? So give you an example. Some facilities or some agencies have childcare programs, which, helps balance the demand. Hey, we know you got to stay, but we also know you're a single mom. So with that said, rightfully so, you can get the leave if you want, the family leave, whatever it is, they could always put in for that. Or we have a program here that, can help you with that. You can go home, get your child, drop them off. And, this way you can also make some extra money in the process. You don't have to pay for childcare now, because think about this. You're a single mother, a single father, however the case may be. You don't have the family support. And even if you're making the extra money, it's all going to someone who's got to pay for your child, because that's not cheap nowadays. So it's like, yeah, but I'm working. What am I working for? I'm not even, the time I'm here, I could be with my family. And even if I'm making money, the money's being spent. So it's nothing productive here for me. Turns out I'm just losing time with my family. So I think that's where higher level agency initiatives should come into play, where you could realize this, and this is great too, guys. I think the initial cost could be a little bit expensive in doing things and getting the insurance. I get it. But once it runs smoothly, man, the investment it gives back towards staff will be tenfold, and you'll see it in our effectiveness. That I think that is money that will easily pay itself off. So again, work-life balance initiatives, I do expect the agency, hopefully, as we move forward, to step up on that, because it's definitely needed. And hopefully there's a way where when people have to get stuck, they're not forced to make that either or decision. They're able to say, well, I know I got to stay today. Let me just get my kid, and my kid can stay here for a little bit while I cover, make some money. That's a good thing. So maybe I could take my kid out, and then I don't have to worry about, if I stay here, this is what happens at home. But there's other things. I've seen agencies doing something with elderly care. A couple of things are now being put in place to balance that either or. Not much to discuss there, Russ. You have anything with that at all, or?
I just think that, in there, the initiatives, I think that's great on the part of, management, administration or whatever. But I think also we have to do something for ourselves and internalize that and decide, what our balance is going to be. And, I tell you, I want people to, have that healthy home life. But I also want them to be plugged into what's going on and understand the value of the function and the gravity of the work that they actually do. I see, people, do your 8 and hit the gate. never invest in the conversation about the gravity of what you do, the value of what you do, or understand that the duty that you're tasked with isn't something that you can necessarily leave behind, and that can be a problem in and of itself. But don't treat this as a job. You do need to treat it as a career, and that's going to become to one degree or another, a feature of what you are as a person. The work that you do, maybe for some people it won't, but I think that being able to have the kind of pride that it takes to go in there to challenging situations, some of them life and death, some of them every day, really speaks to your character, and you should internalize that at least to a point where you feel a deep, abiding sense of pride in what you do, and don't let anyone tell you that you don't have rightful pride in doing something in corrections like that, because this is a fabulous career, but it's also can be a dirty, nasty, dangerous job, and you have to find a way to deal with both sides of that.
Yeah, and guys, when you speak to new people coming in, they jump on the opportunity to work in this profession, maybe because it's a good salary, whatever it is. I know in my state it's a very good salary, but when they come in, they may come up with a myopic focus, not realizing that when they first start the job, how demanding the time's going to be, and how when they get hit, it affects the choices that their family have to make, including if I'm getting hit and I have to stay at my post. And what about if my wife works and now she's expecting me to come home to watch the kid? Now I'm forced to stay. So my wife is forced to call out work. So technically the decision for the agency mandates me. Now I have to make a decision to stay because I'm going to have to stay, which now forces my wife to have to, let's say, stay and take care of the child. So like, these choices, even though the job is our priority and we get it, sometimes you're pushing into making it my family's priority, and to some extent it could be because it's a job. We both need it. But now my wife is sacrificing her time at the job, which ultimately, how many times can she call out before she's put there? So it's just a very negative cycle. So when you have jobs that can mandatory people where their hours are unexpected, I think there has to be a point where the agency has to step up and balance how that could affect the home life. So at this point here, what are the concerns that you have? Okay, fine. Then the big thing is usually going to be centered around some level of care or whatever it is. A doctor's appointment, okay, I get it. If it's emergent, you got to go. But if it's, I get it. But or a vacation, I get it. It's been planned, you got to go. But for like the more routine things, like, hey, I'm working third shift because that's the only time that works because we have a young child and my wife's home overnight and then I work third shift. So my wife can go to work on first shift. So how do we maintain that balance? Because again, I may mandate Russ, but ultimately the person that's taking the blunt of it is going to be my wife too, or whoever it is that's, part of my support system. Recognition and award programs. So real quick, these are not to supplement efforts to appreciate people coming in, like the rookies. I mean, we got to show them appreciation. I said that's part of the welcoming process, but it doesn't hurt once in a while because we do have some rookies, unfortunately, that may be on that superficial where I want some level of recognition because I really am here for a career. And at this point, the recognition may carry more weight on my resume. Or maybe I like my family to see that I'm doing good work. And this actually helps too with your family and understanding what the sacrifices are. So recognition of someone that never missed a day of work in a year. That's worthwhile. Bring the family, bring everybody in because everybody's involved in that sacrifice. But with that said, recognitions, I think, yes, it's good to have them. It's good to have something that showcases the extraordinary work that people do. But it's not to replace levels of appreciation for the routine work that's being done, the basic stuff. Because at the end of the day, and we talked about Employee of the Month programs back in the day, it's Employee of the Month is an appreciation award. It's basically, hey, thanks for your continued commitment to keep the facility going. It should not be done for one-time events. Have recognition ceremonies for that. I get it. You saved the person's life. That's great. We're going to provide you with a recognition, but I'm not going to give you Employee of the Month because, for the last 25 years, Russ has really been doing this day by day, rather basic routine that truly does matter in the course of time of how much he's put in. And I'm going to go ahead and honor Russ because I need that momentum to continue going. But more importantly, I need Russ to see that he's being appreciated. But having said that, again, recognition award programs are good. Just don't use those to take away from the fact that maybe I should appreciate the person first. And I noticed how this could work. If you get sometimes a lot of rookies, they're very they're go-getters, so they can find themselves very early in their career getting a lot of recognition awards because they're chasing things. They may have a want to kind of impress, which you really got to enter this profession humble, but they're chasing things. And there have been times where if you get a rookie that really does something well, they may get a recognition for it, which is more of a public sharing of what they've done. But I still may bring that person in prior to that recognition to give them a one-on-one appreciation. And I think that one-on-one appreciation carries a lot more than that public recognition. Or if it doesn't, I can teach them that by doing that. What's your thoughts on that, Russ?
Yeah, I think that there's kind of a mindset in some things out there where, people say, well, that you want, you're just doing your job. And there is sometimes, no recognition, especially from, management or administrators. And people get blinded to the fact that, it is part of my job and it's a sacrifice. And there's a lot of things that I've been involved in and interpose myself into many, 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 many dangerous situations. And a lot of times that recognition is just not forthcoming because people do have that mindset that, it's just part of the job. I won't say that I've never been recognized, but, some of the things that I've done and gone through, you would have thought would have gained more recognition than they did. But I think that we do want to really, put the fire in the belly of people, not to go out there and get involved in stuff because that should just happen as a course of matter, but to put that fire in their belly, to want to be in there and be a person that makes a difference. And
yes.
And I can't stress that enough that we want to recognize people more often and for more things, and to give them their due reward,
and for the right reasons. I hope that you give it for the right reasons, and they also receive it for the right reasons. Okay, two more. Encouraging open communication. I think corrections right now needs to be a little bit more transparent in their practices. I think it goes beyond just implementing. I think you need buy-in in development stages. You can't get buy-in after the plan's already discussed. You got to have buy-in, while the plan's being discussed. And I think open communication and transparency, especially from the management side, opens up the doors, for us to be open. One of the things we talked about here, I have it in my book real quick that's coming out, or it's out, that Together We Rise. A lot of times when it comes to open communication, people get open communication confused with chain of command, and they're two different things. In the book that I wrote, it talks about the difference between, I don't need to go over the book, but it talks about the difference between chain of command and open door policies. Guys, you got to have a connection with the new people coming in because one, you got to see how things are going. So you want to maintain some real good positive momentum. So I think that you're going to be more active with them when they first come in, but also to kind of see what their thoughts are. I mean, they're coming in with a different perspective that is not biased by routine or frequency. They're coming in with a total different eyes on things. And I think as management, if you want to embrace innovation, it's a good time to go to them and see what they see from their perspective before it gets affected by the everyday routine and the uniqueness of what they bring gets swept up with the normal routine of what's being done every day. but open communication also builds for trust. I mean, obviously that's the basis of it all. If you have good open communication, that allows for conflict, healthy conflict, basically conflict that helps us grow. Conflict then brings investment because I spoke my mind. Therefore, I know even if it doesn't go my way, it's okay because everybody, heard what I had to say. So again, it's not about agreement, it's about alignment. But the last thing about open communication, when people feel invested in something, is that allows us to hold them accountable because we know we have their buy-in. And at that point, they expect us to hold them accountable because accountable is more personal. And I think open communication is something, it's not even just for rookies, Russ. We need that. We need to be more transparent now than ever before. What's your thoughts, Russ? At least internally.
Yeah, I think the
Hold on, Russ. I lost you.
with oh
Can you start? No, you came back. Can I start? I meant to.
that
I meant
wasn't
to give
me.
you. No, I could explain. I meant to give you solo layout, and they put the mute underneath it, and I hit the wrong button.
Yeah. So I was just going to say that it really has to be intentional, especially from the top down, because it's too easy, being a supervisor or management, say, hey, how's it going? And if they don't feel that they can actually engage you in conversation, then they tell you, hey, guess what? Yeah, I'm living the dream. Or all of those other, bromides that we endlessly and mindlessly repeat. There has to be an actual effort to engage, not just do a check-in. We need to be able to, put people into a position where, hey, unburden yourself. Come on in, sit down, let's figure this thing out. And that can be done verbally. You can have a policy or procedure for making suggestions. Even anonymous ones potentially, but you're never going to get good communication unless you're willing to put in the effort, because the officers are going to feel that you're not really invested in it unless you're out there pushing the issue day after day, week after week, year after year. They're just going to assume that, hey, you're wrapped up in your own little thing, and what happens down in the trenches stays down in the trenches. It won't. Yeah. It'll come up, and it will bite you in the ass. If you don't think it will, just try that type of management scenario for a while where you're not plugged into what your people are doing.
Yeah, and the last
Secret
one
Service.
got. I was trying to get ahead of that. All right, so it is what it is. The last one is inclusive team building activities, guys. In the book I have on morale, I want people to know. This matters to me. I don't know, but diversity and inclusivity are two different things. Diversity is makeup. That's all it is. Inclusivity is the action behind allowing different perspectives coming in. Believe it or not, diversity is not just gender-based or ethnic-based, whatever, religious-based. No, it's experience-based, to be honest with you. I think that's the overall arching theme. Diversity is not about race. It's about experience. And we would assume that, yes, because you're a different gender, because you're a different, you're going to have different experiences, but that also travels into your department, your time in, so many different things that could bring in a level of diversity in regards to how you think based on the biases through your experiences. So when you have someone that's new, that's coming in, you got to have them feel that they're included in what we're doing. So whether it's drills, whatever it is, and that's something, to be honest with you, that's on management and on the senior staff. The feeling of inclusion is something that's very dependent on the environment that they're going into, and not so much the person going in, because I'm the visitor right now. It's not my house that I just started. So you're not going to welcome me in the home. You're not going to do things together that show me that I'm welcomed. I mean, this goes beyond the superficial. And I think the team building activities, there's something about achieving the same goal together that kind of forces people to create a more inclusive dynamic. So whatever the activity could be, it has to be towards something that we're forced to work together, but it also appreciates the different perspectives that are being brought in. So in the book that I wrote, let me just read something because it matters to me. And I know Russ is going to be 100% on point with this, because this is just something to me that I don't know. So inclusivity and diversity are crucial components in building a positive workplace culture, but they represent different concepts. Diversity refers to the makeup of the team. It's about having a range of backgrounds, experiences, and perspectives. Inclusivity, however, is action-oriented. It's about how we engage with and appreciate these diverse perspectives. While striving for diversity is important, focusing exclusively on the composition of the team can sometimes lead to overlooking the essence of inclusivity. When attention is concentrated solely on achieving a diverse mix of individuals, the emphasis might shift from actively integrating and valuing the different perspectives each team member brings. This can result in a diverse team that still lacks true inclusiveness if the diverse viewpoints are not actively engaged and appreciated. And the last part I got, in corrections, inclusivity means more than just having a variety of backgrounds and experiences. It involves actively valuing and integrating these diverse perspectives into the day-to-day operations and decision-making process. This includes not just race and gender, but also factors such as years of service, departmental backgrounds, and personal experiences within the corrections field. Embracing this broader view of inclusivity helps create a more supportive environment where everyone feels valued and heard. What's your thoughts on all that, Russ, and how does that relate to retention?
Well, okay. So let me just say from the outset that people feeling that they're bringing value and they're giving value and that they're receiving value from their work is monumentally important for everything, from morale right down to what this video is all about, which is retention. So if people are not getting that, they are going to go and find it in other places. So it's incumbent upon, us, especially at the supervisory level, to make sure that these people are plugged in and that they're providing something for the team and that they're getting something back, whether that's recognition or putting them, at the top of the food chain for a minute because they're going to plan what our next operation is. It's invaluable to be doing that all the time. And you're going to have a range of individuals that you're going to have to deal with. You're going to have some people that, are going to be more outstanding than others. But there's going to be some people that are going to, be outstanding in different roles. Maybe I got a couple guys on my crew that, are true knuckle draggers, and we really need them at a point where we're going to go down and make an arrest on someone because they're going to seg because we just validated them as a gang member or whatever's going on. I know that's kind of a thing of the past, but we used to do that a lot. And so they may be first and foremost. Maybe we're going to carry out a mass search, and I'm going to want some people to point out where we think that some of the contraband might be, and it might be some of my more quiet people that are good at listening and being unobtrusive and just, being observational. Even, they're conducting surveillance at all times, and they bring something. And we want to point it out to everyone that these different functions are there. Like I might tell someone, hey, Smith, he's great on the contraband, so I want you to follow his lead when we go down and we take down this dorm. I might tell, my knuckle draggers, hey, when we do take down this dorm, we can expect, inmates Smith, Jones, and Marbury. They might get in our way. We might have to end up doing a use of force, but make everyone feel that they have a vested input into what's going on and a vested interest in seeing out that it's carried out safely and successfully. And if you do that, you will impact retention. You will also impact safety and security. You will also impact morale. And these should be, we talk about, team building activities, and these are those. There's other team building activities that are obviously not operational. Maybe we're going to do a potluck one day and give everyone a chance to bring something in so that we break bread together. Because in the operational side, we might be bleeding together, but we also want to, function on that other side where we're breaking bread together. And that's what I've always felt in my heart. That's what I've always wanted to bring to the table. And that will make everything function better to some degree, in my opinion.
Yeah, and Russ, that's actually, I think we could actually do a whole show on that. What you just discussed, what I discussed, that's something that I think we need to shift our perspective on, kind of bring it past makeup, bring it through experience. And like you said, have activities that force us to work together for that common good. Hey, Rush, everything you like to say in closing? We covered a lot here. So is there anything you like to kind of get that final thought that we may not have covered, or just close up what we have?
I don't know. I feel like I've blurted a lot of stuff out there. But, once again, it always comes down into thinking about these things in a concrete way. If you just kind of, are going through the motions and all you're doing is, running things day to day, and you're not specifically picking things apart in your mind, you're not being intentional, and you're not trying to look at things critically, and you're not trying to act decisively and act in a way that you further concrete goals that you've thought about beforehand, then you are just a place filler, and you're hoping just to get lucky, and you're hoping that, hey, you know what? Hope everything goes good today. Yeah, well, what if it doesn't? What if today is the day that that somebody's going to get hurt on your ship? What if today is the day that we didn't have enough manpower, and because of that, we end up in a situation where someone ends up bleeding at the end of the day. I want to think in terms of, this retention thing that we're talking about as being, a net good, where we're able to put more bodies out there on the line day after day. People are not as tired. People are functioning effectively. People are not engaged in complacency, or at least not at the level where they're engaged in complacency because they're tired, because their morale is shot, and all of those things. That they're given their full on attention, and that they're being effective, and then they're not being burned out and used up by the situation, and by the department. So I guess I touched on everything there.
Yeah, it's a great summation. So guys, this was just a quick show. We've touched on retention before, but we always try to bring a new perspective to it. I thought this was a fun dialogue that we can have. Hopefully we'll be able to do another show in a couple of days. Depends on, I'm going to be in Florida for a little bit. So if there's some downtime, I don't mind doing shows, because for me, it's therapeutic. Same thing for us. We get all these things in our head, and we're going to be able to express them. But hopefully, guys, the main part of this dialogue for me was to understand the shift in responsibility. When it comes to retention, it's on the facility. It's not on the rookie. It's not on recruitment. It's on the facility and everybody that works in it, from management to frontline. Everybody plays a role in that. So let's shift from the blame game, take responsibility, so ultimately we take accountability. As always, guys, the show is Tier Talk. If you haven't, please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. Bell's going to notify you every time I post a video. Stay safe.